You need a lot of faith, a lot of courage, a lot of recklessness sometimes when your system, and now I'm also talking biology, I'm talking your nervous system, is geared towards keeping you safe according to an old database, according to experiences you've made 5 or 10 or 50 years ago that tell you that this is out of your comfort zone, out of what is a smart idea, out of what's logical for you to do or achieve. The tricky thing is to maintain that state through the steps you actually take in that direction. And how you manage to take the steps anyway, to remain seated and rooted in the trust, is to see this part for what it is, which is an outdated state. Once you notice yourself to be in an outdated old state, thinking, feeling, expecting from an old database that is gonna hit the same glass ceiling you have unconsciously set for yourself over and over again, is the first step, the only step you need to take in order to snap out of it. You can snap out of the state you're in, choosing a different state as the frame for your reality. Hi everyone, in today's video, let's talk about the one question you want to be asking yourself that you probably haven't asked yourself yet in order to achieve those yearly goals and bring your dreams to life. That question has to do with the probability of what you want actually occurring. And too many people ignore this. They think they can get around this question regarding the actual probability. So now here comes the question. The very important, often neglected, long and complex question, which is, why not? Yeah, that's it. There's this idea of knowing your why, knowing why you want something, what you want it for, knowing that intrinsic motivation behind the thought and the action steps, behind the goal and the desire. Know your why. But also, don't forget asking yourself, why not? Because what really constitutes the probability of your goals coming to life, of your dreams achieved, of your New Year's resolutions checked off, is your expectation, is your assumption of what is going to happen. You are setting your own probability. But you're not doing it consciously, and that's the tricky part. You are thinking one thing about your dream, your goal, your desire. We're all thinking about these things consciously, yes, but there's a part of the story that happened before the conscious thought, and that is what constitutes the probability of the outcome actually happening. The unconscious probability equation is based on old, outdated data of what is most likely going to happen if you expand and grow in the direction you seek. For many of us, that outdated old data comes to the conclusion that this better not work out. This better not happen because it's not safe. It is not something anyone from our family line has ever done before, so it doesn't make any sense to achieve that. It is not realistic in our personal realm, in our idea of reality to have that occur. And all of these thoughts, all of these aspects and parameters contribute to creating an unconscious probability equation that comes to the conclusion that that ain't gonna happen before the conscious thought, the conscious expectation of, I want this, here's why I want it, here's what I want it for, is even appearing in your mind. This part is the invisible engine of the self-sabotage, of the outer blocks and outer limitations that arise in our 3D outer reality as we try to make it happen, as we try to go after the dream, as we take those first few steps, and then might be met with some sort of challenges and obstacles on the way. Because of this that we're not looking at. This part, this engine, is running on the fuel of here's why you won't. Here's why you can't. Here's the why it's not gonna happen. But there's a second part to the story with equal power, but that most of us are simply not used to employing to look at. And that is the aspect of soul, of inspiration, of purpose, of our true nature, of our personal truth. And that personal truth, which is always tapped into source, that is linked to our inspiration, to the inspiration that we receive, to the creative impulses that we receive, is always going to come from a place of openness, curiosity, eagerness for more, for trying, for growing, for expanding. At the risk of making mistakes, but just going after what feels good, what feels aligned. And this part is going to ask, why not? This part, our true nature, our personal original, our individual expression and truth is not looking at that. It can feel it, but for this part, this is irrelevant. This part, which is generating our default state, how we perceive the world, our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, it's irrelevant. This part is looking at what it wants to experience. It's geared towards expansion. It's directed towards more growth. And it's only saying, yeah, but why not? Why not? Why not me? Why not this? Why not me to achieve this? Why not me to be that person? If it feels good, if it feels aligned, if it feels true to my heart and soul, why not me? Why not that goal, that desire? No matter how big, how delulu, nobody cares. Why not? And there are many people, especially in spiritual and personal growth communities, that already are connected to that natural aspect of themselves that tells them why not. But then when the steps get more concrete, when they're looking right at what they want, when they're going through their everyday lives, what happens to many people is that they fall back into the default state of how they perceive and expect their reality without noticing. And suddenly, the great feeling, the great, yeah, why not, turns into, not today, turns into, yeah, what if I could, but I can't, so I won't. That phrase turns into, yeah, but it's so hard and it's such an effort and this thing didn't work out and now there's that obstacle popping up and I don't know, it's like it's cursed. It's like I'm cursed. It's like that goal's cursed. It's like it's not, it feels like it's not supposed to happen. When all that happened is that they shifted back into the default state, going back to the old default outdated data that tells them this is not safe. Let's not get there. Let's make sure we do not get there. Here's why you'd better not achieve this. And the tricky thing is to stay rooted while moving closer to the goal, the dream, the desire, living from that place, to be rooted in the inspiration, in the true nature that already knows that of course it can happen. And that is simply open and curious and thinks, yeah, but why not? Let's just go after it. Let's just meet the obstacles when they arise. Let's find a solution once we get there. Why not? Why not just walk? Why not just walk in blind faith? Why not just walk not knowing what the next 10 steps is going to be? Just seeing the very next step, just taking that one step. And then seeing where the path unfolds from there in the direction of the dreams, the goals, the desires. Why not? Why not just do it that way? You need a lot of faith, a lot of courage, a lot of recklessness sometimes to maintain the attitude of the why not in your everyday life when your system, and now I'm also talking biology, I'm talking your nervous system, is geared towards keeping you safe according to an old database. According to experiences you've made 5 or 10 or 50 years ago that tell you that this is out of your comfort zone, out of what is a smart idea, out of what's logical for you to do or achieve. The tricky thing is to not only think, why not once, but to maintain that state through the steps you actually take in that direction. And how you manage to take the steps anyway, to remain seated and rooted in the trust of the why not. The first step is to see this part for what it is, which is an outdated state. The trickiest thing is to notice yourself in an outdated state. Once you notice yourself to be in an outdated old state, thinking, feeling, expecting from an old database that is gonna hit the same glass ceiling you have unconsciously set for yourself over and over again, is the first step, the only step you need to take in order to snap out of it. You can snap out of the state you're in once you notice the state for what it is. Once you notice that the state you might be in, as soon as you're worried about how to get there, as soon as you're questioning the steps, as soon as you're focused on how to remove the limitations and the obstacles in the way of getting there, noticing that state to be the outdated one. Choosing to assume a different state. Choosing a different state as the frame for your reality, as the frame for who you are and how you're feeling in your body and in your mind in this very moment. The default state is a state that has been practiced in our system for years and decades, and everyone has one, okay? It is always related to the personal, individualized database of safe and unsafe experiences that we've made, especially in the first years of life, okay? Every single one of us has a default state, and the shape of that state, due to the individual set of experiences that you make personally, might be more or less beneficial for achieving the things you want to achieve in this life, might be more or less in sync with your nature, depending on the degree to which you were able to express that nature of yours in your early years or not. But the common denominator, the hardest part, is the noticing of the state you are in. And here's how you can notice the state that you're in. And this literally is a cycle. This is going to sound repetitive now because it is all so closely linked and intertwined, okay? Whenever you are in the here and now, looking at your goals, your dreams, your desires, and you feel, but how? The limitations, there's the obstacles, there's why that is hard, there's why it doesn't feel aligned right now. You are already in the outdated state. Whenever in the present moment of the here and now you feel unable to say, why not? With ease, that already is proof that you are in the outdated state. And the outdated state is conditional. It is the conditions attached to overwriting your true nature. And whenever you are aligned with your true nature in a state of safety, in a regulated nervous system, thinking positive, optimistic, motivated, inspired thoughts, the thought, yeah, but why not, comes naturally. It comes naturally. Whenever it does not come naturally, you're in the wrong state. You're invited to shift your state by noticing the state that you're in and the state you'd rather be in. And this might sound somewhat mechanical when this is a natural, easy process that requires only self-awareness. And only is not a small word, because the first thing we lose as we are conditioned, especially if it happens under traumatic circumstances, is the association with the self, with the personal truth, with one's own body sensations, with one's own state and nervous system. The first thing we lose is the self-awareness, and we cannot see how we are unaware from being unaware. So the only direction from there is to build that self-awareness. And building it happens at any given moment in the now, where you choose self-awareness now. Choose self-awareness now, okay? No time, no space, no long complicated process. On a 3D level, on a nervous system level, yes, it is like training the muscles. But what counts is the win in the now, in every now where you choose the self-awareness and shift the state from the new awareness and get back into your naturally inspired state, perceiving the creative impulses that tell you to go in a certain direction, take a next step from the perspective of, why not? Because honestly, why not? Why not you? Why not that? Because of this? Because of an old database that only exists in your mind, and yet it is the default that many people, most people, base their entire lives upon and never get out because they do not. I have a swinging chair, so I can't just move my arms like this or I'm swinging too far. This is the state that most people operate from their entire lives. Managing the limitations, managing the coping strategies and the self-sabotage, managing the obstacles, managing the other people appearing in their way from an auto-generated experience engine that they are unaware of. And the only shift that is required is the shift from autopilot, from the default, to the true nature that was there before the conditioning overrode it. And the true nature is always gonna say, why not? So whatever New Year's resolutions you've set for yourself, whatever goals you want to achieve in 2026, whatever dreams and desires you have that you finally want to go after, please ask yourself, why not? Why not you? And why not that? Because you can. You absolutely can. From the right state, from the right mindset, you are meant to achieve whatever you desire. That's it for today. Please let me know in the comments below how this video resonated for you, what you're taking away from this, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week. Bye.